Day to remember for the rest of your lives.
There's a great promise for all of you.
The Pro Football Hall of Fame and Extreme Networks present the Heart of a Hall of Famer program. With nearly 100 Hall of Famers participating, we have reached 48 states around this country, sharing the message that football is more than a game and can teach Americans how to huddle up during a time when we need to be united.
It's time for America to take a real deep dive. Not at no one else, but at yourself individually. If you want to change America, don't brush your teeth with your head down. Look at who you are and be the example. Be the example.
An opportunity to meet and learn from one of the greatest football players of all time. But more than that, the chance to see that their Hall of Fame life wasn't given to them. Single-parent homes, drug-infested neighborhoods, and poverty.
I grew up in a neighborhood that was considered one of the worst in America, and the household I grew up in was one of the worst in that neighborhood. By the time I was 20 years old, I knew at least 30 friends or family members who had lost their lives. Football became like a second parent to me. It taught me the things that my father wasn't there to teach me, and that my mother, as a struggling, single-parent woman, just didn't know to teach me.
But they learn how to live a life of character before pursuing their football careers. Today, you will learn you can do the same that they once did. Making good decisions can lead to a prosperous life both on and off the field. Your game for life has already begun. It's your decision whether or not you want to be a successful student, son, daughter, brother, or sister.
Every one of you can have a Hall of Fame life, whether or not you play football. You can be as great as you want to be. The Hall of Fame is all about integrity, character, and excellence. You have the opportunity to represent yourself that way. You determine your character.
Welcome to a once-in-a-lifetime program, the Heart of a Hall of Famer.
You know, a lot of times when we strive to get to the pinnacle of our profession, it's like a triangle. You reach the pinnacle and you have a broad base of people, just like each and every one of you that make that possible. Well, I had those people. I think about all the opportunity I was offered, the encouragement, the instruction I was offered. And it allowed me to do only one thing, and that is to offer my life. Make my life an offering. See, because in my second year in the NFL, I knew I wasn't motivated by the money. I knew I wasn't motivated by the notoriety. And I sat in my hotel room the night before the season opener, and there had to be more to playing in the NFL. And I realized as I looked through the scriptures that there is more than playing in the NFL.
I share with young people, I've not met a successful person or someone that's accomplished something that hasn't gone through some adversity. But it's how you go through that adversity and come out the other side. Not just focusing on the adversity, but the development, the maturity after that. So, you know, with my story, I think that's really what I've found over the years to hopefully inspire these young people is to say, sure, I was an NFL football player, but I've come from the same place a lot of you have come from, not having a whole lot, but having to work for everything you get.
That I was to present my body as a living sacrifice, and that was my way to worship God. And you talk about intensity and competitiveness, that's exciting. You see, and as I met the gentleman that sculpted this bus, Blair Buswell, and I sat there with him for 2 days, and he brought in all the details. And I look at God, how God has sculpted this person and brought the details in with all the people I've mentioned. And it has allowed me to be the person I am. And that's what I'm thankful for.
All right, with that, I'd like to welcome everybody to a second edition of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Heart of a Hall of Famer series powered by Extreme Networks for the 2020-21 school year. We are so excited that everybody is tuned in today. to take part in this great program and learn a little bit about not only the Hall of Famer, the gold jacket, Anthony Muñoz, but the man, the guy off the field, the father, the brother, the son, the coach, whatever it might be. So we're super excited to hear about his career today. My name is Jake Ray, and I'm the Youth and Education Manager here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and I'll be moderating today. Our mission here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame is to honor the heroes of the game, to preserve its history, to promote its values, and to celebrate excellence everywhere. And those values we talk about are those of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and excellence. All play a major role in the game on the field, but also play a super and maybe even a more important role in your life off the field. I'm excited today to learn how these values have impacted Mr. Muñoz's career, both on and off the field. I'm excited to see what questions our students have prepared today. But before we turn things over to our special guests, just want to throw out a few thank yous. First and foremost, I'd like to thank our great partners at Extreme Networks. Without them, this program could not take place. I want to thank them for all the great things they do for us here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but all the great things they do for schools, colleges, universities, NFL teams throughout the entire country. So thank you to our great partners at Extreme Networks for all they do. Secondly, I'd like to thank our teachers and administrators who allowed us to come into your classroom today. I know it's a crazy time to be teaching, a crazy time to be learning. So we appreciate you giving us the time to come into your classroom, help with your virtual learning, and be a part of your class today. Also like to thank our students. You know, without you guys here participating today, this program doesn't take place. As I said, we're excited to see how you guys take the program, what questions you might have. So we're excited for that as well. Also, if you're watching us on Facebook Live, if you're a student tuning in, if you're a classroom tuning in, make sure you put in the comment section a question you might have for Anthony Muñoz. Not every day you get to ask a question to one of the best football players to ever play. So when you ask that question, make sure you put your name, what school you go to, and your question, and we'll do our best to get that into as part of the program. So without further ado, I know people are tired of hearing me talk. Let's turn things over to our special guest, Hall of Famer, Gold Jacket, Mr. Anthony Muñoz.
Thanks, Jake. Appreciate it. I appreciate all the students that are watching here. And, you know, we're used to doing things in person there at the Hall of Fame, but with what we're going through this year, this is great. I'm thankful that we can do it virtually and be with you today. You know, watching the video, it brings a lot of memories. You know, I've been in the Hall of Fame for 22 years, and you know, I see a lot of the gold jackets that were on the video, and you know, we've established some great relationships. It is a brotherhood, and my fellow Hall of Famers. And, you know, as I listened to them, some of the words I wanted to share briefly about, you know, character. And, you know, Jake also mentioned the mission, but all, you know, Jim Brown mentioned some of the values, and Jake mentioned, you know, excellence, commitment, integrity, courage, and respect. And you can use those. You don't have to be a Hall of Fame football player, but I think those values can allow you to do what you need to do to be a Hall of Fame person, you know, a Hall of Fame student, a brother, a sister. As you get older, you know, Hall of Fame husband, wife, parent, and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna, you know, share a little bit about those character traits, and then we'll get into the questions. But when I think about the character, the first one that comes to my mind is excellence. You know, excellence is, you should have that as really the foundation of everything you do. You should try to be excellent in everything. And as I look at, you know, when I was inducted 22 years in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I was inducted because of the excellence that I exhibited on the football field. But it doesn't have to end on the football field. It can carry over to life, as Jake said, as a person. But in order to really strive and achieve excellence, you have to be committed. And we have commitment is one of our character, you know, values. You have to be committed. You have to have a commitment. You can't just talk about being excellent. When I was growing up in Southern California, when my mom was raising 5 kids by herself, working 2-3 jobs, never had a dad, never met my dad, I wanted to be a pro athlete. It was in a different sport. I wanted to be a pro baseball player, but I wanted to be excellent. So was I just going to be talking about it? Was I just going to let that dream fade? Or was I going to be committed to doing whatever I could as a kid, high school, college, and then hopefully reach that goal? So when I saw that pro football was maybe a avenue I could take out and provide for my mom and my family, I made a commitment to be the best. And then once I got drafted, every year I wanted to be the best. I wanted to be excellent. So my commitment to working out and getting ready for each season, during the season, each week, was taking place. Integrity. you have to make the right decisions. We know what's right and wrong. So you have to make right decisions even when nobody's watching you. You know, it's easy for me here. You know, you're watching me virtually here, or we're in person. People are watching me. It's easy to make the right decision. But now when I'm by myself and I'm faced by making the right or wrong decision, am I going to have the integrity to make the right decision that's going to really allow me to move forward and be excellent with the great commitment? So integrity is always very important. Courage. I mean, you know, 13 years in the NFL, I can say I got knocked down. Anyone that plays a game gets knocked down. Not only in sports, but I've gotten knocked down in life. The courage is getting back up and getting after it again. You know, during the game, if I got knocked down, I didn't run to the sideline and say, Coach, we need another tackle. Nope, I got up, got back in the huddle, and I said, I'm ready to go again. I'm not going to let it happen again. So the courage the courage of failure, the courage of not being successful, but going back and attempting, learning from that failure, learning from that time you weren't successful, and having the courage to get back up and do it again. The last one that I'll hit on briefly is respect. You know what? 13 years in the NFL, I had the name Muñoz on the back, and I respected my mom and where that name came from. You have to respect yourself. You have to respect your family. You have to respect others. I mean, you know, I got in the huddle with 10 other guys. I was in a locker room with, 50 plus guys and coaches. I respected them. I respect, when I was in school, you have to respect your teachers. You have to respect your parents. So that's a very big part of it. When I was playing 13 years in the NFL, I respected the game. I wanted to do everything with character and integrity, so therefore I could respect the game. So, we go through it: excellence, commitment, integrity, courage, and respect. You use those character traits in your life. And, you might not be a football player, but you can be a Hall of Fame person. I believe living by those character traits will allow you to, on that path of being a great person, a Hall of Fame person.
I think that's a great way to put it. Like we said, these values make football players, athletes, or, it doesn't have, like you said, doesn't have to be sports. They make everybody that uses them better at their craft. And you showed a great way of how those can be, reflected in your everyday life. And those are a part, they make up your character and what you believe in and what you do every day. So, growing up, whether it was in high school, college, or in the professional realm, in the game of football, where there's a time when your character was tested, and how did you use things like those values to kind of get through that moment, get through that thing you were going through, when your character was being tested?
Jake, that's a great question. And, I talked a lot about these character traits as an NFL football player, as an athlete. But you're right. I mean, to be an excellent dad or be an excellent father or a community member, those, it's just not on the athletic field. But those character traits carried over to life. And, you're constantly being tempted. You're constantly, really facing things that you have to say, okay, you might get tempted. And, I mean,
looks like we're having a little bit of a technical difficulty here on our end. Anthony, you froze up on us there. I think you're back.
Football field, you could block somebody illegally and take care of them if they hit your quarterback late, but you want to do it legally. You want to so you're tempted sometimes, but you have to say, no, that's not right. That's not the way this game was designed to be played. We have rules, and we got to stick by those rules.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of that. So right now we're going to dive into all of our schools who are tuned in today. The first school we're going to go to is Hempfield High School. So go ahead there. I just prompted you to go ahead and unmute your microphone. For our students there at Hempfield, go ahead and step up to the microphone and ask your question here for Mr. Muñoz.
Okay, like right here.
Get right into it. Go ahead.
Can the girls make it to the NFL or no?
Can girls make it to the NFL or no? Well, I mean, so I just had I did a conference thing yesterday, and we were talking about, it might not be as a player, but there's a lot of other opportunities where, young ladies can train, can have internships, and be a part of the NFL. I believe we have, Jake, 2 NFL coaches now? Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, you look at the Browns and Washington football team game last week. You had a female coach on each sideline as well as a female official.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if physically, a young lady can put the pads on and play in the NFL, but there's other opportunities, in the NFL office, in the office of NFL teams that will keep you close to the game if that's what you love. But like Jake said, last week we now have female coaches in the NFL.
All right. Our next question is going to be from Harbin's Elementary School. So go ahead. Just ask you to unmute your microphone there. So once you're ready, got your mic unmuted, go ahead and have your students step up to the mic and ask your question.
First of all, I want to say I'm a huge fan of Anthony, and I play the game. I love it, and I'm a QB, and I just love playing the game. And my question is, what were your thoughts during the game, and what were you just thinking?
That's a great question. I appreciate the comment, and I love QBs. I love quarterbacks. I love protecting quarterbacks when I was playing. So wish you the best in your football career. You're thinking about a lot of things. You're thinking about, okay, first of all, going into the game with your offensive game as an offensive player, your offensive game plan, your individual game plan against the guy you're playing with. So you want to make sure that's secure in your mind when you get to the game. That gives you the confidence. So when you're in a game, you got to process a lot of things, and you process it quickly. You're in the huddle. The quarterback gives you the formation, the play, and the count. So right away you lock in. Now as you're going to the line of scrimmage, you go through quickly. What technique am I going to use? You decide, you trust it, and then you do it. And then the great thing about it is that once you do it, if you're successful, then you get back in the huddle. If you don't do it 100% correct, you know exactly what you did. So you process and you make the adjustment right there. A lot of times I'm sure you watch a football game and you hear about how good is this team making halftime adjustments. Well, it doesn't. Hopefully your adjustments don't wait until halftime. Hopefully you're making adjustments the first series, the second series. So it is a processing. You process, and you're constantly, having confidence, making adjustments. So that's what I loved about the game, is that not only was it a physical game, you had to be on top of your game physically, but mentally, man, you had to be sharp. You had to be prepared. You have to be ready, just like yourself. If you have a test next week, you better study. So when you get into the classroom for your test, you'll know, you're not going to know all the questions, but you've covered it. So in a week leading up to the game, we studied. So if something came up that maybe you didn't expect, you would be ready for it. So there's a lot going on, and it's just as much mental as it is physical.
Oh, definitely. Definitely, like you said, there's so much going through your head leading up to that game day through game plans, and what if this guy does this or does this. Having to process all that in the span of 25 to 40 seconds is definitely a lot. So we're going to move on to our next school that actually right up the hill from us here in Canton. That's I heard this like it was coming from out of nowhere. We have a school right here in Canton, Ohio, Camp McKinley. Got some students connected in, so I'm going to head and prompt you here to unmute your microphone. Go ahead whenever you're ready. Have your students there at McKinley ask your question.
Can you see the students, or can you see me?
I can see the students.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So this is the offensive line at Camp McKinley. Go ahead, shoot a question.
So go ahead. So who was the best defensive lineman you ever went up against?
Best defensive line, that's a great question. I get that asked a lot, and I could probably give you a list of about 12, 13 guys that were, because actually every week you're playing against the best in the world. But the one guy that I will always say probably the best all around was Bruce Smith. The Buffalo Bills, he's, fellow Hall of Famer, played, I think, 19 years in the NFL. He had the size, the strength, the speed, the quickness, the smarts, and he was amazing. So I would have to probably say Bruce Smith, but there was a lot of guys that followed closely after him.
It's a great lead in here to our next question. Got a question here on Facebook. We have some students tuning in from Vermilion High School, which is right here in Northeast Ohio as well. And this question is from Damon. Going up against all that talent you go up against, like you said, every week it was somebody new, someone that's one of the 32, 64 starting defensive ends, in the NFL at the time. How did you handle or prepare for that situation every week?
Well, again, it's not only the practice on the field where you actually are working on your technique, but you study tape, you watch your opponent, you know, not only what his best moves are, where he likes to go, but situations too. I mean, you look at, you know, first and second down situation, how does he react? Nickel situations, long passing down, you know, short yardage goal line. So you're really processing all of that. And that's where the study time becomes so important, because when you get into the game situation, now you can just, you know, flip it on. Okay, 3rd and 1. Okay, this is what he has a tendency to do. This is what they do as a defense. That's what, you know, he does. You know, this is his best move on 3rd down and long. So that is the thing that when you're playing against the best, you have to be mentally prepared. But then when you step on the field physically, you've had that work on the field during the week and really make sure not only that you work on the technique, but I mentioned the word earlier, have confidence in it. Because if you line up and you say, okay, Bruce Smith is against me, and you not say, okay, do I use this technique or that technique? Which is going to work? No. As soon as I break the huddle, I'm going to use this technique. I'm going to go with it. I'm either going to beat the guy with it or lose, and then I make the adjustment. So a lot of it is a process of the confidence that you have against the top guys like that.
You mentioned those top guys like yourself, guys like Bruce Smith. You know, as you heard in our mission statement, part of it is to honor the heroes of the game and preserve its history. And part of preserving that history, you know, goes into all the different ways we do that here at the Hall of Fame, whether it's a helmet or like some of the stuff you see behind me. We've got your bronze bust right here behind me, all this different ways. But another part of that, you know, is archives, and that's documents or equipment or all those different things. You know, we do that here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame to, you know, protect the legacy of what made the game it is today. So I have a special guest that's with us. I'm going to send it out to Nathan Martin, the Youth and Education Coordinator here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, with that special guest. So Nathan, take it away.
Yeah, Jake, thanks for sending it here. I'm in the Ralph Wilson Research and Preservation Center. It's a portion of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And I'm standing next to John Kendall, and he's the Director of Archives and Football Information here at the Hall. And John has a huge part and a huge hand in us accomplishing that mission, where we're honoring the heroes of the game and preserving its history down here in the archives. So I know John has some really cool stuff to show us from Anthony's career.
Well, thanks for that introduction, Nathan. And like Jake and Nathan mentioned, we're inside the Ralph Wilson Jr. Pro Football Research and Preservation Center. And this is where we house over 40 million pages of documents, 6 million photographic images, and about 30,000 artifacts related not just to the history of the game, but really every player, coach, and administrator who helped build this game to what it is today. So when we talk about that mission, like Jake said, to honor the heroes of the game, we're doing that down here by preserving their legacies through their artifacts and documents. And then we're able to promote the positive values that the game teaches, the commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and excellence through their stories. Those same stories that we can tell, you know, through these 40 million pages of documents, and every player, coach, and administrator has a story to tell. Those same values that make them great on the football field are the same things that make you a great student in your classroom, make you a great teacher, make you a great husband or wife or business leader. They transcend the football field. So Anthony, as part of this program, I wanted to pull a few things related to your football journey and your life. You know, here we have your uniform from late in your career, 1992, as you were getting ready to retire. Massive photo collection. These are just a sampling of some of the things that we have, but massive photo collection. You know, I don't think a lot of people realize you were an 11-time Pro Bowler, but you're also 11 consecutive year All-Pro, which is very difficult to do. Action photos. This is from when you were enshrined here in Canton, Ohio. Your son being your presenter. We also have media guide bios. This is a media guide bio from your first year, 1980. They actually spelled your last name wrong. I see that. So we got to get on that PR guy and talk to him a little bit. Your newspaper articles, news clippings and things like that. These are things that researchers can access to help share your story. And then game programs. This is a game program from your very first NFL regular season game, September 7th, 1980. And here's the flip card, shows, you know, you were a day one starter there, being the third pick in the NFL draft there. And then books. You know, we have pretty much every book ever written on pro football history. And this is a book written by a longtime beat writer of the Cincinnati Bengals legends, and you have a pretty massive chapter in there. So I want to thank you for all that you've done for the game and all the things that you continue to do for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So it was my honor, and I'll throw it back over to Nathan. I think he's got a question for you.
Yeah, we do have a question. John, thank you for kind of bringing Anthony's career to life through artifacts, through photos, through these programs and that kind of thing. And Anthony, our question for you, was it always a goal of yours to be a pro football player, to be a Pro Football Hall of Famer, or did you have other things earlier in life that you thought you might do?
That's a great question. I just want to go back to John real quick. John, thank you for bringing those out. And, you know, we had one of the students ask who was the best player that I tried to block or I blocked. And, you know, you bring up that program, that flip card from my first game. And it was like, welcome to the NFL, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, number 63. If you see on there, Leroy Selman, who is a Pro Football Hall of Famer. So it didn't take long for me to have to line up against some of the best in the league. So I appreciate you doing that. And back to the question, you know, it's interesting because I always wanted to be a pro athlete as a kid, but as I wanted to be a pro baseball player. I mean, I started playing baseball at the age of 7. I was a pitcher, third baseman. That was a dream of mine. But then when I got to high school, I continued to grow. By my junior year in high school, I was like 6'6", 280 pounds. I was starting to get recruited by all these colleges. So I figured, well, I'll probably fit better in a football uniform than I will in a baseball uniform. But, yeah, the abilities in football didn't come as quickly as baseball, but they came. And then I realized, yeah, this was my way to go to college, get my school paid, and then hopefully make it in the NFL. So it's probably late in high school, early in college when I realized, well, maybe the NFL is something that I want to do. And then all of a sudden it was, yep, I want to go to the NFL.
We talk about the NFL and all the great success that you had, you know, in the game. You know, right now in the NFL, in the calendar, it is Hispanic Heritage Month, and being, you know, from the Hispanic descent, it has to have a special tie, a special connection to you. So, being Hispanic American, how has that affected you in your career? And how do you embrace, you know, that cultural background that you come from, both on and off the field?
Well, first of all, I mean, it's something that, you know, all my grandparents, both sides were grandparents, we're all from Mexico, came up. So, you know, I am American. I was born, but Mexican-American, born in the United States. But one of the things they did is they really brought the culture to us in Southern California, allowed us to know where they came from, the culture with the, you know, the celebrations, the food. So, you know, I've embraced it. I'm very, I'm thankful that I have that heritage, and it means a lot during Hispanic Heritage Month. And I knew growing up, and especially when I got to college, that not only as an athlete do people look up to you, but then now as an athlete, but as a Hispanic athlete there in Southern California, there was really a lot of the Hispanic kids that were really looking up. And, you know, you take it seriously because you want to be a role model to all kids, but especially your culture, because they can look and say, hey, somebody looks like me and he's playing in the NFL. So, you know, it's one of those things that it's always been a serious thing for me. You know, I cannot say was anything negative with being Hispanic, you know, working my way through college and NFL. You know, I always thought that it was an asset. It was a plus because I had a chance to really, you know, with some of the other guys that play in the NFL to say, hey, you know, you can be Hispanic. You can, you know, you can make it in the NFL and really encourage the young people that, you know, maybe sometimes they might have, you know, some opportunities where people are saying, you can't do that because you're Hispanic, you know, and they can say, well, I'm motivated, I'm going to do it. So I think it's been a great thing, not only when I was playing in the NFL, but even now being a Pro Football Hall of Famer.
You know, I think a lot of those values that you can teach from that background not only are for those students who are in the same situation that you were in, or same people, but for a wide range of people. So I have another question from Facebook. This is from Becky, who works at Mansfield Senior High School, which is about an hour and a half west from us here in Canton. She said, what advice would you give students who are in a leadership role in high school about their grades and the grades they're getting throughout all their classes?
Well, I think when you talk about leaders, leaders are those that influence others that do the right things. You know, I had you can be a good leader or a bad leader, and I think if you are a leader, and I'm in my humble opinion, you don't appoint yourself as a leader. Those around you, you know, say, well, hopefully my teammate said that I'm a leader. My quarterback said hopefully I was a leader. You know, the companies I'm running now, hopefully they say that I'm a good leader. Or you can be a bad leader. So what I would say is that you have to be an example. So to be a leader, you bust it in the classroom. Be the best student that you possibly can be, get the best grades. And I think that really solidifies and justifies and gives you legitimacy of being a leader. So it's not only on the field if you're an athlete or if you're playing in the band or the debate team, but, you know, be a leader. Like I talked about earlier, be excellent in everything you do. And a leader should be excellent in the classroom.
All right, we're going to go to our next school now. We have some college students actually tune in. I got some college students here from Malone University, right up the road from us here in Canton, Ohio. So go ahead with your question, those students there at Malone. You guys there? All right, can't hear them. All right, can't hear you guys there at Malone. So all right, it looks like you guys are unmuted. Go ahead. All right, don't think we're getting their sound. So if you guys have a question there from Malone, shoot me a message in the chat. I'll get that as part of the program. So we'll move on to our next school, which is Oakwood Middle School. Again, right here in Stark County. I'll go ahead and just unmute your microphone right there. Go ahead and have a student step up to the computer, to the microphone, and go ahead with your question whenever you're ready. We got some hands up. We have a student coming up to the microphone now as we speak. So go ahead and just unmute your mic there on the computer, and you will be good to go. I can see him. I see him. Go ahead and unmute your microphone there. There we go.
Hello, sir.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Great, thank you.
So, I know like things are going good for you, we're going good for you in football and stuff, and you're a big fan of football. What do you think about soccer and stuff, and like baseball?
Okay, first of all, what do I think about soccer? You know, for someone that's always been rather large and slow, soccer was not a sport that I could participate in. I think soccer players are great athletes to be able to do things with your feet and run and change directions. You know, so we never were a soccer family because my kids were always, you know, my son is bigger than me and our daughter was tall, so she played basketball. But I think I have grandkids that are playing soccer and they enjoy it. So baseball, I love baseball. I still love watching baseball. Like I mentioned earlier, I started playing baseball when I was 7 years old. The talent, my physical talent, athletic talent came quickly in baseball. I started competing at a young age. I was a pitcher, third baseman. I was All-State 3 years in high school on the baseball team as a third baseman. You know, on the other side, I was All-State twice in football. So I was All-State 1 year more in baseball. And like I said, I still watch a lot of baseball, especially, you know, the playoffs. So I think baseball is a great sport. I think to have the ability to hit a baseball is amazing. You know, they say you got to hit the ball squarely when you have around the ball squarely. So, but other than that, you know, baseball I'm more a fan of than at football. And, you know, here in Cincinnati, a couple years now, we have FC Cincinnati. So this community is going crazy with the, you know, the soccer team. So, but yeah, I think they're both great team sports. Thank you for that question. Appreciate it.
All right. Yes. Thank you. Great question. We're going to try and send it back to Malone University now and see if we got our issues figured out. So Malone, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Hi, can you guys hear us?
Yes, we can. All right.
All right. So my name is Nate Hazel, and I'm a senior sports management major at Malone University. And this is our sports management class here, some of our media practicum class. And my question for you is, how did you learn to shut out the noise, some of the excess expectation during your time in the game to and to be able to prioritize Christ and his mission for you at the beginning of your career and throughout the entire length of it?
That's a great question, Nick. I appreciate it. So first of all, I've always been one in athletics. So I have to go back to when I was a kid. I have two older brothers. One's 2 years older, one's 8 years older. And my brother that's 8 years older kind of taught me the game. But one of the first things he said when he saw that I was, you know, I was successful and I was gifted in baseball, he said, Anthony, you don't have to talk about how good you are. If you're good enough, people will talk about you. So I was learning humility right away. So, and he also learned that, people aren't going to talk about you if you don't get it done on the field. So you just have to focus, get on. And that's what I've been able to do, is just know that it's my job. In high school, it was my job. In college, and then the NFL, literally, it was my job. That was how I was, providing for my family. That's how I was putting food on the table. And so I knew that I wanted to play a long time, so I couldn't listen to the outside noise. I had to prepare off season, in season, strength-wise, conditioning-wise, in the classroom. So that's what I did, and that's how I was allowed to do it. And the great thing for me is that the opportunity to do that, but my sophomore year at USC, and you mentioned the spiritual component of it, that's when I started my spiritual journey. And I thought I knew how to prepare. I thought I was pretty intense as an athlete. But when Christ became the focal point of my life, then I really learned what intensity was all about. I learned what preparation was all about, because I realized that God had given me the gift. Now it was my responsibility to develop that and give him all the praise and glory for it. So, I mean, that made it that much more fun. I love the game, but when that clicked in and I started to learn that, not only in football on the field, but as a husband, as a father, as a community member, I tell you what, perfect, no. Problems, yeah, they're out there. We're faced with them. We're not above, making mistakes. But I was able to intertwine and work that together. And I thought that really elevated my play as an offensive lineman.
Awesome. All right, we're going to go to our next school now. In my description here, it says this is Computer Lab 156. Okay. So I assume we got our students from Toronto High School in. I just asked them to unmute their microphones. So whenever you guys go ahead and unmute your microphones there, and go ahead and have a student step up and ask their question. Like we have some movement. Whenever you're ready, go ahead and ask your question. All right, we got one person coming up all the way in the last row. Whenever you're ready, go ahead. All right, looks like we can't hear you guys. Let's try this one more time. All right, try now.
Good. Can you hear me?
We can. All right, go ahead. There, it is Toronto. I see that right there on your jersey. All right, we got it right.
Yep. My question is, what character qualities do you believe it takes to be a very good person, like both on the field and off the field?
That's a great question. Character traits, I think integrity. I think loyalty. Integrity, because people can depend on you to make the right decision. So I think that's very important. Commitment to each other, to your family, your team. So character is huge. Integrity, loyalty, trustworthy. When I was lining up, he was prepared just as well as I was, or I was prepared just as well as he was. So trustworthy is another one that's not one of our Hall of Fame, character traits, but I think that's very important. So, I think there's a lot of that you can look at, but I think integrity, making the right decision, because, you can make a decision, but it's not going to help you, and it's not going to be for your best interest to make that, because sometimes, it might give you some temporary, results, but it might not help you to be an excellent person.
So, you talk a lot about, career on the field, and we've seen some of your statistics and the great accomplishments that you had. You've got the bronze bust that's on display here in Canton, Ohio. You've got the Hager gold jacket. You've got the K Jewelers Ring of Excellence. You got everything saying, and a lot of people have called you, consider one of the greatest linemen to ever step on the football field. So with all those things considered, besides, let's push those all to the side. Outside of football, what do you think your greatest accomplishment has been?
Well, I mean, I have to go to family. I talked about my faith. I think I'm very thankful for that. My faith of 42 years. Next would have to be, my wife and I just celebrated 42 years of marriage. And so that is something that, I have to put right up there with my faith and my family, kids, grandkids. But as far as, your career-wise, there's 2 trophies. I mean, I have the bus, which is unbelievable, and the things you mentioned. But there's 2 trophies that I received that are just, I'm just so thankful. I was able to receive the Walter Payton Man of the Year, NFL Walter Payton Man of the Year. That means that you're doing more, than just on the field. I mean, it's your community. It's who you are as a person of character. And then the other award I received that is an NFL Sanction Award, Athletes in Action, which is a sports ministry. I received the Bart Starr Award. So those 2 I have actually in my family room. I have the Hall of Fame bust. I have the Walter Payton Man of the Year and the Bart Starr Award right there, all 3 together. So those are a couple of awards that I'm very thankful for. And but like I said, my faith, my wife, my family, and then those 2 awards.
So, a lot of our Hall of Famers, a lot of the guys who have long established careers in the NFL, more than likely don't stay with one organization. Now, for your career, on the other hand, you were lucky enough to be with the Bengals for your entire career. In other words, had a short stint with the Tampa Bay Bucks right before you retired. But you're known for your career with the Cincinnati Bengals. We know all the great history that's within the organization, but there's a lot of cool stuff happening with the team now. So mentioning that, I'm going to send it back out. We're going to be live in our Hall of Fame museum in front of some other cool artifacts that aren't behind the scenes, but are on public display for any of our visitors to come and see. So I'm going to throw it back to Nathan Martin, our Youth and Education Coordinator here at the Hall of Fame. Nathan, take it away.
Yeah, Jake, thanks for sending it out here. And like Jake was saying, I'm in our Pro Football Today gallery right now live. And he mentioned Anthony played 13 years with the Cincinnati Bengals. He was on some really, really good teams in the 1980s. In 82 and 89, they actually made it all the way to the Super Bowl, but unfortunately were defeated. But now the Bengals look completely different. They've got new stars leading the team, and maybe none bigger than Mr. Joe Burrow, the quarterback of the Cincinnati Bengals. And I'm right next to the draft card that Commissioner Roger Goodell used this past spring when the NFL hosted a virtual NFL draft, and the Bengals selected Joe Burrow out of LSU as the number 1 overall pick. Now, Burrow's career, he's looked great on the field, but unfortunately the Bengals are 0-2-1. They tied a game this past week against the Eagles. But like I said, he's thrown 5 touchdowns. He's ran for 1. He's had almost 1,000 yards passing with only 1 interception. So far he's looked really impressive. He looks like the face of the franchise that Cincinnati's looking for. But the question for you, Anthony, about the Cincinnati Bengals today, because I know you're a fan. I know you still pay attention. What was that pressure like being a top draft pick? You were drafted 3rd overall. Joe Burrow here is drafted 1st. What can it be like having that pressure as a top draft pick, being a top 5 pick, going to a city like Cincinnati? And then how do you handle that? And maybe even advice. If Joe Burrow wants to see this later, he's tuning in now, what advice would you have for someone like him leading your franchise, the Cincinnati Bengals?
No, first of all, I was very fortunate to play my entire career with the Cincinnati Bengals. As Jake mentioned, short career with the Buccaneers. I tried to come back, injury made it final. But, and the reason I'm glad I played my whole career, because if you didn't play your whole career with the team back in the day, it was either you got traded, which happened rarely, or you got cut and had to sign with somebody else. Game at the time. So, but we fell in love with Cincinnati. I'm thankful we stayed my entire career in Cincinnati. It's home now. Coming in as the 3rd pick in the draft, the number 1 pick for the Bengals. For me, I didn't really, maybe it's just the way I'm wired, I didn't see it as pressure. I saw it as an opportunity. I saw it as an opportunity to come in and prove to everybody and prove to the Bengals that they made the right decision to come in. I earned the starting job 3 days into camp. I started that first game. So it was more of okay, I just got a job. I have to perform at the job. And so it was more exciting to me than really putting, undue pressure. Or the expectations are there. We know that. And I would say it's probably somewhat different for a quarterback being a number 1 pick coming into an organization, because that's the face of an organization. That is the most important position on the football team. So I would say to Joe, just learn as much as you can. You're going to go through some rough times, but it's how you react to it. And it appears that, at least 3 games into it, he's gone through some adversity, and the way he comes back has been so impressive. So you can tell that he's beyond his age and poise. And I would say just don't get frustrated. Keep fighting. I'm sure he will. I've watched him through his college days there at LSU, And we're excited as former players, as a community, as fans of the Bengals to see that he's here. So I would just say, continue to improve. That's the main thing, is that you might lose a game, but hopefully there's improvement every week. And that's what I would say, is that you fight, that you work, and that you hopefully see improvement every day that you go to the facility. Not just every game, but every day that you come out of the classroom, every day that you walk off the football field, the practice field, you see improvement. And that's what I would say.
Like you said, being that number one pick for an organization, whether it's number 1, number 3, number 17, whatever it might be, there is some sort of pressure, and you're coming in as a 20 to 22-year-old for a team that's full of men who have been in the league and have had a presence with an organization, some for like 13 years. So kind of a two-part question. When you came into the league as that rookie, was there a player who kind of took you under their wing and mentored you? And on the flip side, when you got to that point in your career, was there somebody that came into the league that you mentored or even continue to mentor today?
So great question. When I got to the Bengals in 1980, I wouldn't say that there was a concerted effort for someone to, but there's guys you look at, and a lot of times they don't take you under their wing, but the way they prepare, the way they handle themselves. And I was fortunate. We had here in Cincinnati the only 2-time Heisman Trophy winner ever, Archie Griffin from Ohio State, and he was there. A guy like Isaac Curtis. So I watched those guys closely because they were true professionals on and off the field. So those are a couple guys and we had Jim LeClaire on our defense. He was Jim LeClaire on our defense. He was from North Dakota, and the same thing. Solid individual, very intense, and you just watched him because he was intense and got things on the football field, but then he was just an amazing man off the football field, a Christian man, guy that did it right. But when you're on the field, you better buckle up your chin strap because he was going to knock your helmet off. And so I had a handful of guys that I watched. And then hopefully there's guys that, when I was getting late in my career that would say the same thing. I know there was a defensive nose tackle, David Grant, who came in as a rookie. He's the one that took over for Tim Krumrie in Super Bowl 23 when Tim Krumrie snapped his leg. David Grant had a lot of chances to talk to David. I haven't seen him a lot, but he mentioned some things about, the talks we had. There's a couple linemen that I tried to take under. We're still close friends now, years and years after. When they first get in, you really try to, be that role model for them and try to, accept them and show them, they might be competing for your position, but heck, they have to learn. So you teach them different things. And so you continue to do that. And like I said, we've remained close friends now, years and years after we've retired.
Another question here on Facebook. Offensive linemen, known as big guys, strong guys, and often are seen as intimidating, especially to, opposing players, fans who might see them out in public because they have such a big stature. But was there a time in your life that you felt challenged, scared, or nervous, even though you had such a big physical presence? And then how did you overcome that?
Yeah, I don't know if it's scared, but the challenge is a great word. A lot of times you realize it doesn't matter how big and strong you are, that there's things that challenge you because you have to come out of your comfort zone. For me, people think, hey, you're doing this virtual, stuff. It wasn't always like that. People. But, as a 6'6", 300-pound high school senior, if you would have asked me then that I was going to be doing all this, I was going to be going around the country and talking, I said, you're nuts, man. That's scary to me. I don't want, let's do one-on-one. But, I love it now. So that's something that I'm thankful that I have the opportunity to get out and to share things and be a part of the community and do things like this with Jake in the Hall of Fame and share with young people, really what the important things are in life. It's fine to be 6'5", 6'6", 300 pounds and be able to block and run block, pass block, throw a football, catch a football. But to me, it's more about than what you do on the football field. It's what you do off the football field. So that's just one of the many things that I was like, first time I was asked to talk, it was like sweating, and I'm like, wait, loosen up a little bit. You're going to cramp, being so tight. But so when you jump out of your comfort zone, it becomes uncomfortable, but that's what you need to do to grow.
And, talk about, life off the field and, throughout your career, it's kind of hard to focus on maybe a foundation or a charity or giving back to the community because you're so dedicated to your craft to make it perfect on the field. But after, you retire, you kind of have little bit of free time to kind of start, dipping your toes in some other stuff. And one of the things you have started is the Anthony Muñoz Foundation. Could you give us a 10,000-foot view on what your foundation is, some of the things it does, and the impact that it's had, not only in, the Cincinnati community, but nationwide?
Yeah, exactly. Jake, you make some great points with starting a foundation. I totally understand when you're playing in the NFL, you have leverage and you're relevant. But when I was playing, I was a husband, I was a father, I had to prepare and try to block Howie Long and Bruce Smith and Lawrence Taylor. So when I do things, I want to be totally engaged. So if I knew if I started a foundation, I wouldn't have the time to be totally engaged. So then when I retired, it was like, well, still can't do it. So I'll help other groups because our kids were going off to, I wanted to be engaged, and then they went off to college and I wanted to watch them play in their college sports. So they were about sophomore, juniors in college when I started the Anthony Muñoz Foundation. I wanted, living in the greater Cincinnati area, I wanted to engage the area to impact young people mentally, physically, and spiritually. And we have 8 programs now. We'll be going into our 20th year next year. We have programs for elementary kids. We have one-on-one mentoring programs. We have middle school overnight character camps where we teach young men how to play football, a little bit of football, but character, integrity, team building. We have leadership seminars. We give anywhere from 18 to 24, 26 scholarships for seniors going to college. So we try to hit every age group, and every kid that goes through our program does not pay a penny. We go out, I raise the funds, and every program is funded, has a corporate partner. So that's what we do. Not only will you receive a scholarship to go to college, but we welcome you to the Muñoz Foundation family, and we do other things with you. We want to connect with, we want to take you to a Reds game and let you meet board members and let you meet, corporate members. So we'll get you together to get that mentoring from other people other than just us. We might take the young mentoring kids in elementary to the Cincinnati Zoo Festival of Lights, with Santa, and maybe take them out to dinner. So we build relationships in addition to helping them. So that's what we've been doing for 19 and a half years, and we're going on 20 years, and I love doing it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And some other stuff, not only are you giving back to your community, you're impacting us right here in Northeast Ohio. It was just announced a couple days ago, along with Johnson Controls Hall of Fame Village and the NFL Alumni Association, starting the NFL Alumni Academy that takes players who are not currently in the league, but uses some former coaches, Hall of Famers, yourself, to help them kind of teach them some new skills and get them back, hopefully signed with a practice squad, a 53-man roster somewhere. So why was something like that important to you? And how does it feel, to maybe, get back in that 3-point stance or that 2-point stance a little bit?
Well, hopefully I can get out of the 3-point when I get in. I know I can get in it. For me, it's exciting that, the Hall of Fame Village and Hall of Fame have started this new project going on, this new facility, and of course this new contract. And as I looked at it, I've never gotten into coaching full-time. I should say I coached high school full-time for 3 years, but I've coached a lot of different pro camps. I've done camps. And this is just a way, again, to be kind of a mentor, to really share more than football technique, football stuff, to share, character. And I'm looking forward to that. I know through this whole COVID period, my trips to Canton have been very few. Usually I'm up there quite a bit. So, I think it's an 8-week program. You'll probably be seeing me a lot more in the next couple months. So I'm looking forward to coming up and working with these young linemen and working with other coaches. Mike Tice, who played in the NFL and coached in the NFL, and guys like Chuck Smith coaching the defensive line and who played in the NFL. So I'm excited that we get to train these guys, not only on the field, but in the classroom, in the weight room, and they'll be ready. So if a team needs them, bang, we can just say, hey, this guy's ready, and then bring the next guys in. We'll start training them. So I'm excited about the NFL Alumni Academy there in Canton, Ohio.
All right, looks like we got time for about one more question before we wrap things up. And as you know, you've participated in this program before, so you probably know the question that's coming. But it's a great way to wrap everything up and kind of sum everything we talked about up today is, we've got a lot of people tuning in. We've got middle school students, high school students, and college students, and probably some NFL fans watching on Facebook as well. If there's one piece of advice or one thing you want everybody who's tuning in today to take away from the event, take away from the program, what would that one piece of advice be?
I guess you don't have to be a Pro Football Hall of Famer. You don't have to be a celebrity to have an impact. All you have to do is be willing to stand for what is right and let others see that and be an influencer for others to reach goals, to do things the right way. That we all have a platform. It's just a matter of us being willing to use it regardless to what arena we're in.
Awesome. I want to thank you so much for being a part of our Heart of a Hall of Famer program today. All the schools who tuned in, thank you so much for being a part and tuning in today, allowing us to be a part of your classroom. So with that, we are going to wrap up this installment of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Heart of a Hall of Famer series, powered by Extreme Networks, with Gold Jacket, class of 1998 member, got his bronze bust right here beside me, Mr. Anthony Muñoz. Anthony, thank you so much. From myself, all of our staff here, Jerry, Nathan, John Kendall, all the way up to David Baker. Thank you so much for everything you do for the Hall of Fame and everything you've done for the game of football. You know, I like to say that the game of football wouldn't be like it is today without the great impact that not only every legend has had, but specifically every Gold Jacket, you being one of those. So thank you for everything you've done for the game. Thank you for everything you've done for us at the Hall of Fame. And like you said, we are looking forward to seeing you here more often here in Canton, Ohio. Before we let everybody go, just a couple quick announcements. If you're a subscriber to podcasts, make sure you tune into the Pro Football Hall of Fame's podcast, The Mission, that's hosted by my great coworker and friend here, Jameer Howardson, where he interviews Gold Jackets and NFL legends alike. Just had the Black College Football Hall of Fame's founder, Doug Williams, had Gold Jacket running back Thurman Thomas on recently. So make sure you're tuning into that, giving that a listen. And all other social media channels here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Make sure you subscribe, like, follow, whatever it might be. We've got some awesome stuff coming out. For us specifically, this Friday on Facebook, we're going to have our fourth Before the Snap program featuring podcast host, author, former ESPN producer, Mr. Jason Romano, who's going to talk about his career involved in sports at ESPN and everything he does now. And here in about a month, we're going to have new class member Isaac Bruce partake in our Heart of a Hall of Famer program. So we're going to talk to him about his career, just like we did with Anthony today, and everything he's been through, and hopefully what his experiences will be like once he finally gets to see that bronze bust and get to put on that gold jacket. So again, from myself, from Anthony, from everybody who participated, thank you so much for tuning in today, and we hope to see you next time here as part of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Heart of a Hall of Famer series, powered by Extreme Networks. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you later.
Thanks, Jake.